Hey, this is Steve in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
This is Zach, originally from Washington, D.C., but somehow I wandered into the crazy Las Vegas weekend. So rock and roll, baby, and welcome to Light Talk.
Good morning, this is Ellen from St. Bart's, but I'm running this party at LDI. So today we're here live to answer your questions and have some fun. Welcome to Light Talk.
This is Dennis from New York City, the home of free city buses and cheap rent. But now is the time to grab your blue balls and enjoy 45 minutes or more of Light Talk.
Good morning, this is Brackley, and unlike my freeloading brothers and sister, I actually live here in Las Vegas, and you are tuned in to Light Talk.
That's my line. And this is David, coming to you from the beautiful Las Vegas Convention Center. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk and watching Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers
and Sister.
That's right, Ellen.
Wow, applause.
Yeah, we get applause here. This is your first time.
Oh,
so
my God.
Try not to sound like a rookie.
Usually
okay?
I have to pay my wife to applaud at home.
Yeah,
Wow.
on Tuesday nights, I'm sure. Okay.
And it's not for Light Talk.
That's true. So welcome everyone to our annual live podcast of our show here at the LDI Convention Center in Las Vegas. And in this case, we're on episode 454. So once again, we're back here in Sin City. First of all, we would like to welcome our live audience for attending the 2025 Light Talk show here at LDI. Welcome everybody. Many of our friends are here with us, and we're going to have a fun 45 minutes of semi-serious shenanigans.
So, a lot has happened since we saw you here in 2024. Light Talk continues to carry on. Every week, a new show. We try to have more guests on. We're responding to what you've asked for in that sense. We have amazing new co-hosts with our friend Dennis Size and Ellen. We couldn't ask for two more people to have with us that were better. We still have our old friends with us, Zach and Brackley, as part of the Lumen family.
As Steve mentioned, we have a new co-host and Lumen brother, Dennis Size. Along with his vast knowledge in theater lighting, Dennis brings a great deal of expertise in broadcast lighting to the show.
So before we get started, a few ground rules. This is how this insanity works. We ask you to write a question on a note card about the lighting industry, lighting design, or anything else you may be curious about, including relationship issues, investing in cybercurrency, and avoiding the Department of Justice. Speaking of the Department of Justice, you will drop that question into an ice bucket that we stole from the Westgate Hotel, the very same ice bucket that appeared on the Apple series Pluribus.
And that very stolen ice bucket brings us to a very important member of Light Talk, our attorney, Snoot, who you met when you arrived, the crazy lady in the red hair harassing you to fill out the question card for some cheap Chinese Light Talk blue balls. I have to warn you also, Snoot happens to be married to one of us on this stage. I can't tell you who.
Well, congratulations, Dennis.
I was going to say, if you see Snoot giving me a little back rub during the show, it's all in family.
It's all in the family.
All in the family.
There you go.
Anyway, Snoot has been with us for 5 years, and for that amount of time, she has managed to keep most of the Lumen family out of prison.
Most.
Apparently, last year's Light Talk LDI show was somewhat controversial, so this year she will join us at the table to make sure we stay within our legal bounds. Anyway, Snoot is carrying the ice bucket, gathering last-minute questions that you want to submit.
And for your question, she will give you a free limited edition Light Talk blue ball. Hang them on your Christmas tree, Hanukkah bush, or even throw them at your cats. We don't care.
However, the people for the ethical treatment of animals do care. And just to put this disclaimer out there, the idiots up here are not liable for any of your feline injuries.
Then, during the show, we will randomly pick 6 questions out of the bucket and answer them to the best of our ability. The people who are lucky enough to get their questions selected will come up here and select one of the remaining orphan pets from the Light Talk Rehab and Petting Zoo, formerly known as Stan K's house.
That's right. You can adopt one of these stiff but sensitive animals if we pick your question.
But that's not all. Here's the best part. One of these animals has something very special about it that only we know. And at the end of the show, we will reveal this secret. And the person who is the new parent of this animal will receive our grand prize. A limited edition, not ready for a dishwasher Light Talk mug, as autographed by all of us, found in David's nasty dust-filled garage. A limited edition Light Talk shot glass from our very first LDI show. And the most valuable and exciting part of this grand prize we will announce later at the end of the show.
Hey, Snoot, why are you looking at your phone? We're doing a live podcast.
I'm just starting the timer so I can start billing you losers for my time.
Wait. We're married. You're still charging us for your time?
Wait till you see the bill from last night.
Oh, boy. So with that said, let's get started. Steve, will you pick the very first question?
Okay, so here's our question. Does it make me a bad designer if I absolutely despise follow spots? And how can I incorporate follow spots to make them less intrusive?
Okay, before we answer, who wrote that question? Come on up here and grab an animal. Oh my God, Drew's been here every show. So grab an animal.
Have you ever had one before, Drew? What? An animal?
Animal?
Oh,
this is your first animal.
Okay, so it's not rigged.
That's right, definitely not rigged.
The animal is, though.
He's rigged, but the animal's not. Good.
No, it doesn't make you a bad designer to hate follow spots. I think every one of us in this room has hated a follow spot at some time. I mean, the problem with well, I'll give you an example. I'm getting ready to mentor a student through a new opera with one of David's friends from Chicago Lyric Opera. And sitting in the room, I said, should we incorporate follow spots into your show? And he said, absolutely not. I hate them. He said, unless I have a good operator on that follow spot and, it's not something from 1962 that people have sprayed down with WD-40 to make it work. He said, I want a good operator. It's difficult to be a skilled follow spot operator. We've all seen it. They kind of go bouncing across the stage. They pick up the curtain instead of the dancer at eighth line or quarter line. So it's difficult. I think if I'm speccing follow spots for a show, and I'm not being paid, it's going to be a Robert Juliot follow spot. I want something that is already really fantastic. I was thinking, as I read about this, one of the first shows I did, I had follow spots. It was an opera. And I remember being on the headset to Spike, the oldest known follow spot operator in the world. He was 92. And I kept saying, Spike, make it darker, make it dimmer, make it softer. And he was really good. He had made it dimmer and softer and dimmer and softer and dimmer and softer. And I finally said, perfect. And he went, the SOB's turned off, Mr. Woods. But what I learned from Spike, though, is in regards to how to make it better, he was such a great follow spot operator, and the softness of the follow spot was amazing to me. When I asked him about that, he had worked in a burlesque house as a young man. He had taken a drop of gun oil, and he had put a drop of gun oil on the follow spot gel, and he had smeared it out. And it was like one of the most beautiful lights I'd ever seen. And I asked him, how long does that last? And he said, about a show, and then I'll have to re-oil all my gels and get them back the way I want them. So I think follow spot operator is my partner in show. David, you've certainly used follow spots a time or two. How do you feel about them?
Well, I hate them, personally. No, it depends on the operator, depends on the necessity of the show. And working primarily in opera, a lot of shows use follow spots. That's just the way it is. But when you're actually lighting the show and creating an atmosphere, you really want that spot to be totally unobtrusive and not noticeable. You want to feel the follow spot and not see the follow spot. So that's how I've always felt. So some shows I use them, most shows I don't.
I think that the operator is really the key in terms of you have to have a nice smooth operator and someone that can really deftly move from one spot to another, which is really important.
You need a good cue caller also. In the early days, I was on the tour of Cats, and our cue caller on there was really great. She ran the lead follow spot, and then she called the cues to everyone else. And it would sound like what you would expect a cue caller to sound like. And one night I heard her go, no, that's a tabby. That's a tabby, not a Siamese. This to your left? No, that's still not a Siamese. Keep going a little further left there. Congratulations, Tex, you got the cat. But nothing flapped her. She would make bad follow spot operators look good. She would talk them through the show.
How do you guys deal with, like, especially in opera, the diva performer when they're going to be told you will not be getting a spotlight?
Well, you have a follow spot up there, but it's so low that she can see it, or he can. They're male divas too, by the way.
They're called tenors.
They're called tenors. Yes. And they can see it as long as there's a light up there following them. And I've done this before just to make them feel more secure. And that's really what it is most of the time. We need to move on. So let's have Ellen, could you go ahead and reach in and pick the question?
What do you think will be the next big leap for lighting fixtures? David.
You know what I'm going to say?
AI.
Fixtures. She said fixtures.
No, I know. Drone focus deluxe. That's what's going to be next. When you have a drone carrying the light in the theater. I talked about this last week. You don't need positions anymore, right? You don't need 30 lights. You could do it with like 5 lights because, hey, you need a shin kicker. Here it is. Then you need like a front light. There it is, right?
And they don't make any noise?
They see now that's one of the limitations right now. So when AI figures out how to do it, a silent drone.
That'll create a whole new job for not just the sound designer, but they'll have to be a person whose responsibility is charging all the drones.
Charging the drones, right? Exactly.
Drone charging department.
I think it's a continuous march to something that's smaller and lighter and has better color rendition. I mean, there's only so much I think they can do until there's a completely disruptive technology we don't know about. The thing that I'm excited about is how tracking is getting better and better and better.
We talked about that on this week's show that aired yesterday. Smaller and more versatile. Yeah. And I think that's where it wants to go. One light that can do the work of 4 or 5 lights, especially when you're spending, $10,000 or $20,000 on a moving light. It has to do a lot more than just have 4 shutters.
Right. The other thing we talked about is also have a very good variable frost.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me like, in my experience, the less expensive the light, the more limited the diffusion capabilities are in that light. And you really want to be able to go at least 100 points of diffusion and not 3, like light, medium, and then you can't see the light because it's so heavy. And you were talking about that in broadcast, in your broadcast issues
well, that's
too.
Alex Kyle, who's sitting over there. That was a question he presented on the show yesterday that aired about it, more diffusion. And that's a real problem. And some of the fixtures, the diffusion's in the wheel, and you see the wheel moving, and that's a dumbass way to do diffusion.
That's a dumbass way, yeah.
Whose question was this?
Yeah, whose question was that?
Come on up and get an animal.
Yeah, come on, choose an animal.
And it's not one of the animals sitting behind the desk.
Right. Okay, Dennis, you're up.
What has been the most fun lighting project you've worked on? Patsy McCormick.
Patsy.
Who's Patsy?
Come on up. Pick up an animal. One of these animals, they need good homes, always.
Well, that's a great question for Dennis.
Yes, it is a good question.
I'm stumped.
No way.
I know.
You have too many of them.
I like to have fun with just about any project. But in my career, the most fun I've had over the decades has been working for Oprah Winfrey. And I've said that many times, if Oprah were to call me or Harpo were to call me right now, the wind that you feel would be me hitting that door. It was a client, and why? Because of all the clients I've had over the years, no matter what we did, nobody ever said to me, "What's this going to cost?" And it's like, wow. And I used to do the new seasons and the new studios, and sometimes I'd sit on the shows, but I very rarely sit on shows because I have the attention span of a gnat and can't really focus that well. But we were doing a new launch, and Oprah's assistant said, "Dennis, Oprah wants to see you in her office." So I went up and said, "We're going to do something special for the launch. I need you to go out in the parking lot with me." And I said, okay, sure. We go out in the parking lot. I said, "What are we doing?" She said, "I'm going to give away cars to everybody in the audience." I said, "You're shitting me." And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, what are we doing in the parking lot?" She said, "We're going to put all the cars out here." I said, you mean you're not going to give them a certificate or something? She said, no, I want everybody to come out in the parking lot, and we're going to light the parking lot. We're going to wrap the whole parking lot with a big red ribbon, and I want to make sure it's lit because we're going to see. And the audience was probably 250 people, something like that. I mean, the thoughts that they said were crazy. You know, we did one show. John Travolta was the guest. Many of you may know he's a pilot and flies his own plane and all that. And they said the studio was huge. It was a big studio, this high, big elephant doors at the back. And she said, what I'd like to do is have John coming into the studio in a plane. So they rented a plane from Hollywood, a film plane, and damned if during the show, which was live, elephant doors open up, the nose of the plane comes in, and there's John up in the pilot seat. I mean, crazy stuff. And because of that, everything that I ever did there was fun. And as I said, when nobody says, what's this going to cost, you know, let's face it, we're all facing budgets, especially these days. So you end up having to be challenged by doing something for $1.98, and it's not as much fun.
And I have something to add to that because I used to be a consultant for Disney back in the 90s. And it was sort of the same thing back then. I know it's different now at Disney, but back then, the creatives were not controlling the creative parts. It was really the marketing people. So they would make the most ridiculous decisions you'd ever imagine. But at the time, we were building Euro Disney, MGM, and part of Epcot, a couple other big, all those big hotels. I learned how to be an architectural lighting designer, but then if I just, hey, like this giant hotel, okay, whatever. But I think the bottom line, beyond money and budget, the people you're working with, because I think I did the most fun show last year at the San Francisco Opera. I did a Tristan there, and everybody on that team was just incredible, from the stage management to my assistants to my associate. And this happens every now and then when you're doing shows, because that is really the important mix. And I did this show in Chicago, this new opera that Stuart Copeland wrote. And that was another situation where you just had these incredible creatives and everybody for some reason clicked. And it was just fantastic. The experience was wonderful.
You hit the nail on the head. Regardless of how much I liked working for Harpo Productions, if you can do a project where you're working with people you like, and you can have fun, and no matter how crappy the day goes, if you can go out and have a nice supper with some nice people that you're traveling with, what could be better? I see several people in the audience who I just love working with, and that's what really makes the projects fun.
Also, the crew at the Royal Opera House, the most fun I ever had with a crew. Because my first day that I met them, and they were all just so friendly, they said, okay, we break for dinner from 5 to 7, and at 5 o'clock, we meet at the bar across the street, and we want you there. So I went to the bar with the electricians, and they kept on buying me drinks, which was, I want to be sociable, but I have to work that night too. So, and as Snoot will tell you, that I can only drink so much until I pass out. But it was a great time.
You are listening to Light Talk, and today, Light Talk is sponsored by
The Lewis Hartman and David Belesko Society present The Old Ways Are the Best. Why an A-frame ladder is clearly better than a Genie lift. Long gone are the days when the mighty A-frame ladder ruled the American theater, but now it's time for a comeback. Yes, it's time to bring back the Widowmaker. You heard me right. Bring back the A-frame ladder. The ladder that made an entire generation of stagehands appreciate life and question their choices, sometimes mid-air. Let's explore a few reasons why the humble A-frame ladder is clearly superior to the over-engineered monstrosity that is called the Genie lift. Number 1, stealth mode. Beep, 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 damn beep, beep, beep. Beep announces its every move like a reversing garbage truck. The A-frame ladder, silent, sneaky, like a ninja on the catwalk. You could scale a light rig during the overture of Sound of Music and no one would notice, except for the crash when you overreach and gravity wins. Number 2, eco-friendly and powered by pure hubris. The Genie lift requires batteries, charging stations, and occasionally a blood sacrifice to the tech gods. The A-frame ladder just needs your questionable 18-year-old decision-making skills and a touch of your unearned confidence. Number 3, portability. The Genie lift, heavier than the cast of Ben-Hur, needs 2 people, a 10-minute warm-up, and possibly a forklift to move. It might even break the stage floor. The A-frame ladder, light as a foldable giraffe. 1 person, 1 arm, and a hallway full of scenery, no problem. Number 4, training. What training? The Genie lift requires certification, hours of training, and a minor in mechanical engineering. The A-frame ladder, what possibly could go wrong? In your face, OSHA. Number 5, cheaper than a gym membership. The Genie lift. Press a button and it magically raises like an elevator. You can even finish your donut on the way up. The A-frame ladder, it's leg day every day. Climb up and down for every light you adjust. Your thighs will scream. Your calves will ascend to godhood. You will lose 2 pounds during the morning focus session. Number 6, the theater aesthetic. The Genie lift looks like a sad refugee from a construction site. The A-frame ladder, vintage, rustic, a true classic. It belongs at the St. James Theater. Need a metaphor for our town? Roll it in upstage left. Create an instant balcony for your hipster Romeo and Juliet. Want that gypsy rehearsal scene to look truly chaotic? Cross it mid-stage right before the Act 2 dance number. Peak realism. Number 7, emotional support capabilities. The Genie lift, cold, metal, indifferent. It lifts you up. It lets you down, emotionally and physically. The A-frame ladder, wobbly, unstable, but emotionally present. You can put it on an uneven surface. Yes, you both know that was a bad idea, but you do it anyhow. A true partner in risk. The final verdict, the A-frame ladder wins hands down. Not because it's safer, not because it's smarter, not because it's cheaper. It wins because it is a forgotten rite of passage. It wins because theater isn't supposed to be comfortable. Theater is supposed to be chaotic, dangerous, and fueled by caffeine, denial, and the real possibility of falling off the damn ladder while you're trying to adjust a Fresnel just out of reach. It wins because no machine can compete with that. Louis Hartman, David Bolesco, God bless you, rest in peace, brothers. The A-frame ladder is still in good hands.
And now, back to Light Talk. And please, give Steve, thank you. You know, I marvel every week or so when Steve writes something, because the creative genius that comes out of his head, who creates all these commercials and sponsors, is just wonderful.
My damn TD threw my A-frame ladder away about a month. And I said, you need to go get it out of the garbage. You know, there's going to be a day that you're going to thank me for this. May not be today, but there's going to be a day that you're glad you have an A-frame ladder hanging on the wall.
How many people out here actually stood at the top of an A-frame? All right.
Wow.
How many people out here, of those people who have done this, now speak with a very high voice? Because you know what I'm talking about. All right? No, you don't? I'm not going to get into personal social.
Don't go into that now.
I had to cut it out. We talked about this on the show last week, and I actually had to edit it out.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear about your testicles.
Again?
Nobody, except maybe Snoot.
Count me out.
Okay.
And now, the 4th question of the day.
Young people often program their own shows. How does the relationship between designer and programmer change when the designer knows how to program or may think they can program better? So who asked this?
Oh, Kelsey.
There comes trouble.
By the way, I talk about Kelsey a lot on this show because she's my associate here in LA. And she's a fabulous designer and has a really great partner, her fiance, Keenan. By the way, great programmer too. If anyone needs a programmer, that's the guy.
I think my work is done here. This is actually an excellent question, and I think that it's part of what's becoming like a major culture shift. You know, when I look at my own career as sort of starting at a time that was bridging the gap from when things in the projection world were still slides and Pontiac and PG projectors and just becoming digital. So the very first show that I designed was all slides, and it was the last time I ever worked with slides. And that, you know, I came from all of the people that were my mentors that didn't program at all because it was not part of that culture. And a lot of the people who have come in my generation and younger do program because part of it is sort of a rite of passage. You know, you're in college or even in high school and, you know, someone's got to play the role of programmer. So somebody grabs that job. For me, I've always looked at programming video as an extension of the design, you know, and using the media server as another sort of editing tool. That being said, there are always reasons why you may not be your own programmer. Sometimes there's a union issue where you just aren't allowed to have that role, or sometimes there's a resident programmer at the place you're working at. And I think that, you know, the most important thing is figuring out when you're working with another programmer how they want to be talked to. You know, sort of like the Montessori method of, you know, meeting them where they're at. You know, because I know that as a programmer, you know, I see things in my head that look like Watch Out, the software, and then I translate how to take what I know to do in Watch Out and do it in another media server, or explain it to a programmer. If I was doing this in Watch Out, this is how I would do it. But I think a lot of what I need to do when I'm in that programmer-designer relationship is figure out, how does this programmer want to be talked to? Do they want to have technical things? Do they want me to tell them very specific technical stuff? Or do they want me to say to them, make this fade in over 10 seconds, you know, and then they do all the magic that makes that happen? What do you guys think?
If I have a show that requires a programmer, there's absolutely zero way that I'm going to tell them what to do. And if I'm entering into that type of show and I bring the programmer on, I usually list them as the associate designer. And my first question to them is, what console do they want to use for the show? So, you know, if I swear, I promise you, it's never going to happen, but I promise you, if I ever get a Tony Award, I'll have my programmer standing right beside me. I mean, that is a vital person in that team. I'm going to do a toss out here to Phil Powers. He programmed a show for me years ago. And what was nice about having a really experienced programmer was he saw things that I wasn't looking at. He would see little things like, you know, there's like 6 inches of light reflecting off that leg of the curtain. I'm not going to bother you, I'll fix it. Or we would be doing something and he would say, there may be 3 different ways to do this. And let me show you each way. And it's like boom, 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 boom. So, I mean, I think, you know, these days of the programmer and the designer, they're merging into one thing now, one kind of monster, you know, who designs the show. They both do, and they both bring good things to it. So if I have to hunt and peck my way through it, sure, I can do that on a hog. I would never try that on a Grand MA, and I would never try that on a show that's big and a lot of pressure and there's money on the line and things have to get done, and they have to get done correctly. So that's not the time to experiment. That's when you want a professional by your side, I think.
Yeah, a programmer can make or break your show, period. Well, what my brothers have mentioned earlier, I totally agree with. Sometimes you don't have a choice, and sometimes you're lucky, and sometimes you're not. If you're unlucky, for whatever reason, that programmer is taking longer than you would hope because you have 300 cues to write, and you have 8 hours to write them, and you know that if you continue at this pace, you're going to have to end up cutting 1/3 of the cues. You either have to bite the bullet or you have to get someone else. And a lot of it depends on the politics, depends on the unions, depends on a lot of moving parts here. There was one show I was doing where I fired 4 programmers in 5 days. The bottom line is you got to make sure that you get the programmer that you desire, because if not, then everything's going to, you know, it could be a total disaster. And directors know this too. I mean, directors are savvy enough to know why it's taking so long. And a lot of times a good production manager would come back and say, what's going on here at the table? Why are we on this queue for 30 minutes or something like that? And realize, oh boy, there's a real communication problem here. The designer's asking for something that I think is simple. For some reason, the programmer can't get their heads around this console. And a lot of times, I'm not the one who changes out the programmer. It would be the production manager or the master electrician or someone who's in charge.
I mean, I would add to this whole conversation that on the flip side, if you're the programmer, like getting to know how the lighting designer or projection designer, whoever you're programming for, wants to be communicated with is important as well. I will always remember, I once got a phone call from Peter Kazarovsky, the lighting designer, and he was telling me about how he was really struggling with this programmer, and he was looking for some advice because he knew that I knew the programmer. And really, the programmer was doing a great job, but the way that he communicated, he would like talk about his process out loud, and it presented as if he didn't know what he was doing. He was trying to figure things out, and it freaked out Peter. And so I had to have a conversation with his programmer that was just like, all the things you're doing are great. Peter's happy with the way the cues look, but you just don't want to talk so much during this because the designer you're working with, that's his style, is he doesn't need to know your process. So, when you're the programmer, a lot of times the lighting designer is the person who can get you hired. So, you want that relationship to be tight, and you'll see the best relationships between designers and programmers are people who look like they have some kind of mental connection, that they don't even have to speak. They know what each other want, and the designer knows what snacks that programmer likes best, and the programmer knows when the designer needs to take a break because they will forget to, and stuff like that.
And that happens when the programmer designer works along well together in a lot of shows. You just have that common vocabulary with it.
I've used the same programmer for 7 years in New York, and the producer came up to me one day and said, Lois is making more money than you. And I said, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what she's making. I'm happy with my salary, and we're getting that from her. She's making it work for you.
Absolutely. And I don't know, a lot of you are very young in here, but for many years, all the shows I did in LA, I used Andy Figueroa. He used to work, did the Kiss tours, right? All the tours for Kiss. So he was an old rock and roller, but he was the nicest guy in the world. And he was a great programmer, great hog programmer. And then he moved on to the MA. But yeah, I wouldn't use anyone else because I know how important it is. And I'd say, hire Andy. And Andy could have made a lot more money than the operas that he was working for me on. But because he was doing it as a favor to me, because we liked each other and we liked working with each other. So I think it's really important. And when we talk about teamwork, and I agree, you bring him right up there and give that Tony to that damn programmer. Absolutely.
We talk about collaboration all the time, and I would argue it's not collaboration. What it is communication and cooperation between 2 or 3 people sitting around a desk trying to make the very best show possible for their client.
And to do that, you have to be invested in it. And you need to make the programmer feel invested in it. And that's one of the things I do when I first meet a new crew, whether it be a programmer, the electricians, I meet with them. They don't know me. They've never worked with me. None of them's worked with me. So I sit down and I make sure it's sort of like a team huddle. Like, okay, we're all in this together. This is our show. It's not my show.
We have to make sure they've never listened to this podcast before you start the job.
That's right, exactly. And that's true too. Okay, we have another question, Brackley.
Who wrote this? What do you do step by step when demoing a fixture on the show floor? Who wrote that? Come on up.
Hey, she's an animal. The lizard, the biggie.
The lizard king.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
great question. What do you guys think? Because I've not demoed a fixture in a while.
Well, don't do something stupid that you know is not going to work. And I'll tell you a quick story about this. Back when the ETC Source 4 came out, they had that new reflector that kept the gate very cool, right? And it was a big deal. It was a big deal. I know none of you were born during this time, but I was at LBI. I think may have been in Orlando. I'm not too sure. That's not important. But I was on the floor and I had already seen the Source 4. It's been out for about 6 months, whatever. And there was this great demo that they would do, and they would like have a gobo in the source 4, and the source 4 was on, and they'd pull it out, and then they would like grab it, and it was like just warm. It wasn't red hot. Well, Strand came out with a competitor model, and that was on the floor as well. And the salesperson at the time demoing it pulled it out and grabbed a hold of it, and his hand almost melted. Right? He screamed, the gobo goes flying, you know, it was like a disaster. And I'm like, oh my God, it's horrible. But I'm laughing, of course, because it was so stupid. So that's my advice. Know the limitations of what you're demoing.
Wear gloves.
Wear gloves. Asbestos gloves.
I did that this morning. And I was talking to our good friends at Elation about something, and I was explaining what I need the light to do. And I said, can you help me? I need the light to do these couple of things. And they picked out a couple fixtures that they thought would fit in that category and just walked me through. And then we looked at some competitors' models that were the same type of light and also could also reasonably do the job. But it's just a matter of knowing what you want the thing to do as opposed to being everything at all times.
I think, like, based on what both of you guys are saying, like, I absolutely agree that a lot of what we want these things to do is fairly pedestrian. And that, you know, I think of the example, like, since I'm also a musician like David, that, you know, you go into the guitar store and people are in there playing the flashiest riffs they can think of on the guitar, which after they buy it, they are never going to play again. They're going to be playing 3 chords. So, you know, go in there and test what you're actually going to make it do, because the stuff that you see out on the showroom floor is stuff you're never, ever going to do in like a practical world. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our last question, because we have to wrap this up. There's only one animal left.
While David is looking through that, I'm going to point out that if you want really good swag, go down the hallway to the escalators, just walk past it, and there's the ETC museum with hot cookies, sodas, and about 17 different types of swag. They also have the 6-ounce Wisconsin shot glass. So that's all there.
And we have our swag in the back. Please make sure you take it.
All right. If I've been away from the industry, lighting design, for 20 years, what have I missed in advances in tech and generally? Go out
down
on the floor.
Yeah, go downstairs.
Did they specify what 20 years they missed?
Yeah, that's
What decades?
True. That's true. Who answers? Come on out. Come on out. Thank you for your question.
You have the choice of one
You
animal.
got a choice of that giant iguana over there. Okay. Wow, 20 years. Well, 20 years, LED is over 20 years old, right? In fixtures and lighting fixtures?
no.
Okay, so LEDs, you missed LEDs.
Lasers and math.
Lasers and mag. Right. You've missed laser projection and laser lamps, right?
I don't know. There's a booth for you. And when you walk in, just head to your, probably if you're in the middle, head to your left. And God bless them, there's a salesman standing there. And he's about 12 years old. And as you walk up, he will look at you and say, "Do you like Duvetine and technology?" And I wasn't quite sure how to answer that question, so I just said, "No, I don't like either," and kept going.
That is funny.
That's what you missed, right?
Yeah. So,
Boy, yeah, I mean,
Controls probably the biggest
controls.
thing.
Yeah, control has added a lot in 20 years. And hopefully it's going to add a lot more in the next 5 years.
that's a good point. So we have a lot of guests on the show who are, technology is a big thing, and it's hard to stay current all the time. Someone was saying not long ago, as far as Grand MA or Hog or ETC, and we know they're very different. But one person was saying, get really good on one console. If you're 18 or 19 years old, you're just starting, so in 20 years, pick a console and master that console. Pick one product line. Everybody makes such good equipment. It's hard to go wrong with what you pick. And you don't have time to learn everything.
Welcome back to the industry.
Yeah, welcome back to the industry. But yeah, welcome back, and go on the floor and ask a lot of questions. And ask them to demo that to you. Sometimes it's in another room, the demo, so they're not down there. But go ahead and take a look at it, because people in here Yeah, we're all in the same boat. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all Lumen Brothers and Sisters, really, when it comes down to it.
And somebody's going to be the grand prize winner.
Right. So, did someone mark the animals? Yes, I did.
You're all winners.
Everybody who has an animal, pick it up and look at your animal's buttocks, the buttocks of the animal. If there's a red heart drawn on it, you are the grand prize winner. Oh, Kelsey, come on up here.
staged.
Come on up here. This is not staged. All right.
I thought your choice was kind of lame.
What?
But
What? Look.
A lame
Hey, no, it's the
lame
kids.
duck.
Okay, take that. Take this. Take this.
Don't
okay,
put it in the dishwasher.
This has been filled with liquor and drank by every single lighting guest on our show. And we have not washed it once. Okay, so you can take that to wash it. You like? And the other part, and unfortunately, you've already done this, but they're going to be a guest host on this show. No, because you're going to be a host of the show. You're not being interviewed. You were interviewed on the show. You're now going to be a guest host. So we'll figure out what days you can do it. Okay?
yay.
Thanks, Kelsey.
For those who aren't regular listeners, we have a series that we started about 6 months ago, Young Emerging Designers. And we're on maybe number 9 or 10 younger people who've achieved a certain amount of success at this point in their career. And Kelsey and Keenan were our first guests in that series. So now you have emerged so quickly. Now you're a host on the show.
But okay, before we end, we do want to thank all of you. Great listeners, great brothers in arms and sisters in arms. You're such an important part of our show. We are now finishing season 9 of Light Talk. Season 9. We're going to have almost 10 years of Light Talk. It's nuts, all right? And we've had over 500,000 downloads, listeners in over 130 countries,
The state of Texas.
State of Texas, outside Texas, not much, and countries and territories. Even the Faroe Islands, we still have 3 people alive in the Faroe Islands that listen to our show. We have no idea if there's theater in the Faroe Islands. It's crazy. And this is our 8th LDI show.
So thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen. Right, exactly. And thank you, Ellen, for putting on such a great show.
You're more than welcome.
As usual. Oh my God, we've known Ellen forever. And way back, I was at LDI 1.
One.
Okay, I was the
In
first,
Dallas,
Yes,
Texas.
in Dallas.
I was there
I
as
was
well.
living in Dallas at the time, exactly. So that was great, and thank you for doing such a great show.
It was right after the fall of the Alamo.
Was it
Just
the
about.
Alamo?
I remember those great saltwater dimmers that I saw at that job.
Okay, well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again you've listened to another morning of Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there, Apple Podcasts, everything. And don't forget, we have a Facebook page, and go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, and that way you won't miss one show.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
If you do decide to litigate, just look at this panel. Do you see Stan sitting here? Case closed.
Redheads, gotta love them. Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers.
And Sister.
Coming to you direct from LDI 2025 in the heart of Sin City.
Be sure to join us next week when we dive into more lighting shenanigans and serve up a fresh, piping hot casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
And maybe next year.
And maybe next year.
Yeah.
Have a great day. And take some balls with you on the way out.